My ex hired someone to kill me, but didn't get away with it. Ask me almost anything. Serious, over a year after I separated from my husband, he finally gave up trying to get me back and decided to hire someone to kill me instead. Luckily, the police were notified and an elaborate sting was set up to catch him, which included them pretty much faking my murder. 2 days ago, my ex-husband received a 10-year sentence for conspiracy to commit murder. Can you tell the entire story from beginning to end? Even if you don't consider yourself a good storyteller, it will still give us an outline to ask further questions about. For the first year after I left him, he was in pretty much constant contact. He called, texted, or showed up at my house every single day, and it was always constant fighting. He tried every trick he could think of to try and get me to come back to him, and I continued to refuse. About 6 months before the incident, I completely cut off contact with him, finally realizing that even speaking to him was giving him hope that there was still a chance of getting back together. He continued to follow me around for a while after that, but then stopped suddenly, and I heard nothing else from him. One morning, after the kids were in school, I got a knock on my door. It was a couple of police officers, and they informed me that he had hired someone to kill me, and they were about to set up a sting to gather evidence and catch him. The supposed hitman called him to inform him that the job was done. Then a 911 call was made, reporting a possible burglary at my address. Another police officer showed up, then radioed for an ambulance. More officers started showing up. Then the ambulance arrived. They had no idea it was a sting until they got there. Soon afterward, the coroner was called. He also had no idea. A couple of detectives left the scene to go and inform him that his wife had been murdered and asked him to come to the police station and help them out by answering some questions. He answered their questions, I assume, and then was informed that I wasn't really dead, which is when he went into panic mode. This is pretty much the only way that his reaction was described to me. Then they arrested him. Once we knew that they had him in custody, everyone at my house packed up and left. The crime scene tape was taken down, and then everyone was gone. I was asked to go to the police station because my family was waiting there to see me. Do you think 10 years is enough, or will you fear for your safety after he is released? I will definitely be afraid for my safety and that of my children after his release. How did the police help you fake your own murder? The police conducted a sting in which someone called 911 to report a break-in at my home. The officer that responded was in on it and called for an ambulance when he arrived. Paramedics and even the coroner showed up at my house and pretended to be working a crime scene. It's a small town, so word travels quickly, so they knew that he would hear about what was going on and believe that his plan had worked. Did any of your loved ones think you were dead? What an ordeal. Yes, they all did. My family, excluding my children, were outside the house, trying to find out what was going on when the coroner arrived at my house. How long did they think you were dead? 1 hour. 24. It was about an hour before they were escorted to the police station and informed of what was really happening. Where were you and your children during the fake murder? I was in the house, staying away from the doors and windows so that I couldn't be seen. My kids were at school, and the whole thing was over before school was out. How did you find out that he was trying to get you killed? I found out about it when the police showed up at my door to inform me that he was attempting to hire someone to kill me and that they were about to conduct a sting to catch him. I had no idea before that. That's interesting. How did the police find out? Did he pick one of those hitmen who are actually undercover cops or something? He asked his friends if anyone knew someone who could do it for him. One of his friends informed the police. Do you know how he reacted after he was informed of your murder? From what I was told, he played the part of the distraught husband very well until he found out that I wasn't really dead. Have you had any contact from his side of the family? What did they say? I'm close with several members of his family. They have been very supportive of me through everything. How did you first meet? Were there any warning signs along the way? We met at work. We worked for the same company, although not the same location. Our work brought us to the same location at least a couple of times a week. There were lots of warning signs the last couple of years that we were together, which is why we were separated. Like, What kind of warning signs? He started cutting off contact between me and my friends and family, one person at a time. He decided that that person was somehow a negative influence on our lives and insisted that all contact with them stop. He began monitoring all my contact with the world outside our house very closely. He insisted that he have access to all my online accounts. He checked the call log on my phone, compared to the number of minutes used, read all my texts, etc. He cut off any access I had to any money at all, only allowing me small bits of cash when there was something specific that I needed to buy, and then making sure that the receipts matched up to what I was supposed to spend. He stopped allowing me to have gas in my car, except for putting the small amounts necessary for the places that I was allowed to go. He also checked the mileage on my car to make sure I had gone no farther than I was supposed to. He set up a list of rules, although he never would call them rules, for what I was expected to do and what I was not allowed to do. This list included when I was allowed to sleep, etc. If I complained about anything, the solution was to add another rule that would somehow solve the problem that I was complaining about. Before the incident, did you view your husband as someone capable of doing something like this? Was he always extreme, or did this extreme example of violence come as a surprise to you? Before this incident, he had stalked me for almost a year, then completely stopped contact for several months, with no explanation. Some people believed that he had finally given up, but I stayed on guard. I knew that he had become unstable, which was a big part of the reason that we separated to begin with, but even I didn't realize how far he was willing to go. Were you there for the sentencing? Did it feel satisfying, or did you feel pity for your ex? I wasn't there for his sentencing. The detective on the case called me and informed me that he was in court and about to plead guilty rather than go to trial. I felt nothing but relief. I'm usually a kind-hearted person, but I don't think I have it in me to pity him anymore. Can you block all visitation to your kids? What have you told them and how are they coping? He has no visitation with the kids. I've told them that their father is in jail for trying to hurt mom. They don't know many of the details, but I couldn't keep the basics from them. How old are they? Will you eventually tell them the truth, or just let it lie as is? My children are elementary school age right now. I will make sure that they know at least most of the truth before he is released. Why did you marry someone like him? I assume he wasn't like this when you were dating him. What do you think changed? Or was he always this possessive? I get asked that a lot. He obviously did not seem crazy when I met him, when we were dating, or even when we first got married. The last couple of years that we were together, his personality changed slowly but steadily from a normal guy to completely insane, in my opinion. Anyway, before the police brought this to your attention, did you have any suspicions? Beforehand, I had a strong suspicion that he was planning something. I just didn't know what. I knew that it wasn't in his nature to just give up on something that he thought he deserved. Do you have any advice for people that are currently in an abusive relationship and struggle to get out? My best advice would be to get out, no matter what you have to do. I understand the fear of having nowhere else to go, the embarrassment of having to admit to your family and friends what your marriage has become, and having to admit that you've lied to hide the abuse from them. All of that is difficult, but staying is always worse. Do you think you'll ever trust someone else enough to have a relationship? I think it might be possible, although difficult. But I'm not really looking for that at the moment. So what was the contract amount he paid to take your life? I believe that the highest amount he offered was $5,000. Did he ever give an explanation as to why he did it? The only reason that he ever gave, which I think he gave to the supposed hitman, was that he wanted custody of the kids, and that would be a lot easier if I was out of the way. Have you had any communication with him since his arrest? No, I haven't, and I hope that I don't have to. You've mentioned in a couple other comments that you have children and that you won't feel safe when he's released. I'm assuming the children are his, so my question is, did he ever threaten the kids? And what do the kids think of their father now? He used the kids as a weapon against me. He was constantly threatening to take them away or run away with them, and I would never see them again. He even had the kids begging me to give him another chance because daddy really has changed and he's nice now. Why fake the murder? That seems unnecessary. It seemed a bit unnecessary to me too, and believe me, it wasn't my idea. From what I've gathered, they did the entire sting to make sure that they had enough evidence to guarantee his conviction. If you could ask your ex any question regarding the incident, what would it be? I would ask him, if he honestly though, that he could get away with it. Are you afraid of what 2024 will bring? Yes, and I'm afraid that he will be paroled long before he has actually served his 10-year sentence. During the sting, when you were inside your house and having to stay away from the windows, what was going through your head? How did you feel? All that was really going through my head at the time was my family. Once I had been assured that my kids were safe at school and would not hear anything about what was going on, I thought about my relatives and friends on the outside. I asked every few minutes if my mom was outside yet, if she had been told that I was okay, how she was doing, etc. I just kept imagining their feelings as they watched everything from the outside. Also, how are your kids doing with all this madness? Are they old enough to get it? And if so, do they? My kids are actually handling it all quite well. They have been disappointed that they weren't allowed to get their stuff from their father's house, and they miss their friends from his neighborhood. But they understand that he did something bad and that is why they can't see him anymore. Overall, they are doing better now than they were when he was still seeing them regularly. I always believed it was wrong to trash talk their father to them, so for a while, they never really understood the whole separation from my point of view. All they ever saw was their father crying, telling them how sad he was that mommy broke up our family and won't come back.